Hello YouTube. So tonight I'm gonna talk about Smile 2. Now before I get started, this will contain some spoilers, so spoiler alert. Now let me talk about the negatives about this movie. The only main negative I have with the movie is that I feel like they use a lot of CGI, which don't get me wrong, it does look really nice. There's a lot of good kills, but there's a lot of scenes where like you could tell it's CGI and it doesn't really ruin the movie for me because this is a fantasy horror. When it comes to fantasy horror, it doesn't really bother me that much, but at the same time, it does take itself seriously. So I kind of wish they used more practical effects than CGI. Even towards the end, where the entity actually comes out of the main protagonist's stomach, which was, don't get me wrong, was super brutal. They showed like intestines and organs and coming out, but it was very CGI, and even the entity was very CGI as well. You know, where actually starts showing itself like its true form, just like in the first one. But in this one, like you can hell tell like it was computer animated and like come on, like this is 2024, like in the 90s and even before that, like the 70s and 80s, like they use practical effects when it comes to like monsters, aliens for example, The Fly. So yeah, they could have used some they could have used a really good practical effect on the entity. But aside from that, I really liked it. The kill scenes was the CGI and stuff. Now, let me get to the positives. I really love this movie. It's actually one of my favorite horror movies of 2024, along with many others. And I really like the concept of this movie, or just the franchise, how it just focused on mental illness and and trauma, and how certain entities could kind of leech onto that and kind of fuck with your mind. Because some people do believe that mental mental illnesses like schizophrenia is actually caused by an evil entity that's really just fucking with your mind and stuff. And so, like I said, I really like the kills in the movie. The main protagonist, she does a really good job in expressing fear and anxiety and trauma, and also just acting like she's losing her mind. She did a very good job on that. I forgot to mention the opening scene is fucking amazing. I really love the opening scene. It's actually one of my favorite opening credit scenes of any horror movie, next to Evil Dead Rise and a few others. And yeah, let me get back to what I was saying about the main protagonist. You know, the actress, she did a good job. Forgot her name. What else? Like I said, I like the concept of it. And this movie also have a lot of good jump scares. Actually, this movie is mostly jump scares, and they're all really good. They all caught me off guard. I mean, a lot of times you know what's gonna happen, but it doesn't really tell you when, and it really catches you off guard. A lot of times, it caught me off guard, and there's a lot of creepy images. Just like the first movie, and I actually like the movie way better than the first one. So, what else? Oh yeah, I also like how it also focusing on like the pressures of being famous or being celebrity, and you just never know what they're going through. It just shows how stressful their life is sometimes, and sometimes we don't know what they're going through a lot of times either. Because they're always behind closed doors. We're just like on the outside, and they're pretty much on the inside. And a lot of times you don't know what they're going through. I mean, we all think that their lives is perfect and glamorous, because they're famous and they're celebrities, but a lot of times and don't get me wrong, it is glamour in that lifestyle, but a lot of times they go through a lot of stress. There's always work, 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 work. You look at all these actors and musicians. A lot of it is just business and stuff like that, and sometimes that could be overwhelming for them. So a lot of times they turn into drugs and stuff like that. And I also like how they show like drug abuse and how it could affect not that not just their life but the their loved ones as well. And how like trauma that their past guilt back to haunt you or just consequences. This movie just have a lot of parallels to that. And also like the main antagonist, which is like the entity, and like how it just like it's a really evil and diabolical entity, like. And this is like the only like movie like antagonist where they managed to kill two protagonists, both films. You don't really see that a lot nowadays. A lot of times the villains that they lose, but then they come back on the next movie and stuff like that. But they always get defeated by the main protagonist. And this one, you know the entity doesn't lose. It always wins. So it just makes it more threatening. And a lot of horror movies don't do that nowadays. It's always like the bad guy loses, but in this one, like it always wins, which makes it more like like I said, more threatening and more diabolical. And it kind of makes whoever suffered for this curse next is basically helpless. And I really like that because it just makes the movie a lot more scary and uses your trauma and guilt to really fuck with you before killing you in the worst way possible. And to me, that's the worst type of demon. I mean, you got the nun and you got Pennywise, which this entity actually made those two look like elementary school bullies. It's just a very demonic and diabolical entity. And for that, I really enjoy it because, like I said, like I'm tired of these weaker villains that always get easily defeated or just like not pushing his boundaries like the same way as Arthur Clown and this entity does. I didn't know it has a name, that's why I just keep calling it the entity. So overall, I give this movie a 5.5 stars, almost 6 stars. It wasn't too much of the CGI, but aside from that, I really love this movie. Like I said, it's one of my favorite horror movies of 2024, and yeah, I really enjoy it, and I highly recommend watching it, especially if you're a fan of the first film.